We actually use biofeedback every day for those of us that wear like Apple Watches or Fitbits, and our watches tell us when our heart rate is too high and calm down. That's a biofeedback. Biofeedback is basing information off your heart rate, your temperature, that type of thing. Neurofeedback is based off of your brainwave activity. So it's a form of biofeedback. It's been around since the 1960s, and it's an audio-visual training therapy to help retrain the activity in your brain.
Hey, it's Rocky. Welcome to Richer Soul. Today's guest is Melissa Hergert, who founded BrainTrain Centers. Imagine it's 12 months from now, and you've achieved your major life goals. How does it feel to be in the best shape of your life? To wake up energized, excited about the day, to have great relationships and friends who support you and propel you forward? How does it feel to have an excess of money, to be able to make the choices you want, to be fearless and open to trying new adventures? Imagine being connected to the universe and it providing everything you desire. It's possible over time, and your past does not dictate your future. The only thing holding you back from this vision is you. It's time to take control of our thoughts and use them to our advantage. Welcome to Richer Soul, where we achieve our dreams and bring balance to health, wealth, relationships, time, and spirituality. If you have not had a chance to listen to episodes 1 through 9, I encourage you to go back and listen to the framework behind Richer Soul and how to create the life of your dreams. You can also find all the show notes for this episode at richersoul.com. Have you ever spent time training your brain from a structural standpoint? I think we take it for granted. With advanced technology, we can now get feedback that allows us to improve the way our brain works. I have some basic feedback monitors I use at home, but this is so much more advanced. Melissa Hergert is CEO and the visionary behind BrainTrain Centers, a leading organization specializing in neurofeedback therapy and mental health solutions. She's got a master's degree in addiction counseling, and she is passionate about empowering individuals to overcome challenges and achieve mental well-being. Let's meet Melissa and see how she does it. Welcome to Richer Soul, Melissa Hergert. It's great to have you join us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm excited for the conversation, and we always like to start at the beginning. What was it like when you were growing up, and how much did your school and parents teach you about money?
Ooh, this is a great question. So I grew up in San Diego, California, which everyone immediately is like, ooh, you have money. You're from California. The fact is, I was actually born when my mom was in a homeless shelter, and I was born into food stamps, and she was then got on welfare and Section 8 housing. And my dad was not around. He was actually, unfortunately, into drugs. So he was pop in and out. So I saw my mom just work as much as she could. And so what I thought money was is you just work as many hours as you can, get a paycheck, pay all your bills, and do it over and over again. I didn't know anything about savings. I didn't know anything about investing. I didn't know anything about actually abundance of having money. I was raised in a very Christian home, and I know this verse gets misinterpreted all the time. It's about people with money are evil, but it's not really saying that. I know that now, but as a child, I thought like, oh, then all rich people are evil. They just use people to get money. I mean, that's really seriously what I was taught, except for in church, you give all your money to God, and he will take care of you. Seriously. So I mean, for a very short time, I went to a private school, like when I was a little girl, and I think I had a scholarship to go there. And then I went to public school, and in public school, I mean, all my friends were middle class and did have money, but I was the girl that had to get on the city bus and ride an hour and a half back home to the hood. So I was actually raised in minority neighborhood. I was the minority in the neighborhood. I was the only white girl. They called me white girl Melissa, actually. And all I saw was that culture of like hustle, grind, sell things to make money, figure it out. It was always like to survive. Money was for survival. It wasn't for fun. And if we did have fun, it's because we put so much money aside, like a few dollars per paycheck from my mom's paycheck to be able to go to a camp. And we usually would get like a scholarship or something. So unfortunately, I had a very, in my opinion, now unhealthy relationship with money growing up.
Was there something that shifted that allowed you to change that relationship?
I'm still working on that.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, even though I have become successful and my mindset is money flows easy to me. I mean, that's what I've said. And that is the thing. Money was always easy to make. I watched that. It's just, I thought you had to put hours to the money. You had to do a certain amount of hours. I knew that like owning a business was a possibility later in life, but I didn't know anything about having money to start a business and people investing in your business or anything like that. So I'm still really learning a lot. When I started my business, I took a student loan check to start my business because I couldn't even qualify for a loan and I didn't have any money.
Here's the thing. They'll give you money for college. They won't give you money to start a business.
Right. I know. So that's what I did. I took my $4,000 student loan check and I started my business.
That's wild. So is that the business you have now, or was that a
Mm-hmm.
different? Okay. So what inspired you to start Brain Train Centers?
Yeah. Here's the thing. I did always have this plan since I was little to be a chiropractor. And my mom's originally from Georgia and we lived out in California when I was born. And the chiropractic school here in Atlanta, Georgia is called Life University. It's one of the best well-known chiropractic schools. So when I came here when I was 24 to kind of escape a bad relationship, my mom was here taking care of my grandfather at the time. And I just came to visit. And then I realized, well, maybe I should really do something with my life. And so I applied for chiropractic school and I got accepted and I did a year of chiropractic and I was like, oh, I don't actually want to be a chiropractor. Like, I don't want to touch people like that. And I was 28 when I realized that. And I had all my past jobs work for chiropractors because I thought I wanted to be one. So I'm like, I'm going to go work for chiropractors so I can understand the business side. And that's where I was like, I like the business side of this. And I hadn't been touching people. So that part was like, okay, I'll learn that part. And then when I stopped school, I started working for a chiropractor again and $17 an hour, working my butt off. And I had a little girl at the time and he had neurofeedback therapy in his office. So I got certified. I learned all about it. And I worked for him for 2 years and helped him expand his business where it doubled in size. And then I said, I think I could go do this for myself. And so I moved 30 miles away and I started my own.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So what exactly is neurofeedback therapy?
Yeah, it's an awesome therapy. So it's a form of biofeedback. And some people have heard of biofeedback a little bit more. We actually use biofeedback every day for those of us that wear like Apple Watches or Fitbits. And, our watches tell us when our heart rate is too high and calm down. That's a biofeedback. Biofeedback is basing information off your heart rate, your temperature, that type of thing. Neurofeedback is based off of your brainwave activity. So it's a form of biofeedback. It's been around since the 1960s, and it's an audio-visual training therapy to help retrain the activity in your brain.
And what's it actually reading? I mean, it's reading brain signals?
Yes, it is. It's reading brainwave activity. So we do an assessment first where we record 12 different areas of the brain and see how fast or slow that those areas are processing. And then we come up with this full report to show the client, hey, here's where your brain's working too slow. Here's where your brain's working too fast. And then the therapy helps retrain those areas by giving a feedback loop to the client when they're hooked up with little sensors on their head, and they get an audio visual feedback loop to help retrain those areas.
So what does that look like or sound like when you're getting that feedback?
Yeah. So back in the day when it first started, you would be hooked to like a little sensor. And these sensors, they don't shock you or anything. They're just sensors. Everyone always asks that, like, you're going to buzz my head or whatever. No, it's just a sensor. It's picking up the brain activity. And back in the day, the old school neurofeedback, it would be connected to this box with a light bulb on it. So every time the brain would go into the pattern that they wanted more of, the light bulb would come on and then it'd turn off if it was in the wrong pattern, and then it'd turn on when it's in the correct pattern. So that's the old school neurofeedback. Today, the way our technology has evolved is the client actually sits in a chair in our office and they watch a TV with their favorite show, their favorite movie. They could go on Netflix, Disney, whatever they want. So they're watching their show. Every time their brain goes into the correct pattern, their show is nice and bright, the volume's loud. As soon as the brain goes into that negative pattern that we don't want, the screen turns dark and the volume goes down. So it's doing that for the full 30-minute session. It's giving this live feedback, either positive with the bright light and the loud sound, or it turns dark and the volume goes down.
So I have a Muse. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, I know what those are. That's similar.
I was going to ask. I mean, it's much more basic, I'm guessing.
Yes, it is. It's a very basic biofeedback device. It's not that it's bad. It's just that it only trains one brain activity in one area. And when you come to an actual board certified neurofeedback clinic, when we do the assessment, we could see which brain activities and which areas and customize that therapy for you.
Okay. Now, what does all of this help with? Like, why would someone do this?
Well, all of us definitely need brain health, strength. So when we live in the world that we live in with unhealthy foods, unhealthy environments, some places, all of us have dealt with trauma of some sort, brain injuries. So people will get symptoms when that type of thing happens in your life. So you might have insomnia or sleep issues. You might have memory decline, focus and attention issues, anxiety or depression. So all these neurological symptoms that pop up that most people run to get medication for, there are other options. And I'm not against medication. It's the one industry where medication is handed out without taking, a test like checking brain activity. They just do a quick test and then give you meds. And so I think a lot of more people would be on correct medication or possibly do something like neurofeedback where they might not even need it.
And you do a lot of treatment with kids, though, too, correct?
As young as 5. So children, they may or may not be diagnosed with ADHD, but they are having either behavioral issues or focus issues at school. A lot of parents will call us and see if we could help.
So, how do you know if this is going to work or not work, or whether this is the right way to go for whatever it is that you're dealing with?
Right. We take a lot into consideration. Well, first of all, there's a lot of research. There's more and more research still coming out. The American Pediatric Association has actually put biofeedback as a number one therapy for ADHD. So it's awesome to see more medical providers back the efficacy of this and tons of research supporting it as well. They're starting to do more on dementia, PTSD, all kinds of stuff in large universities like Harvard and UC San Diego. But our system also takes into consideration family history, family environment too, because here's the thing, I'm not going to just start a client if the family's not supportive or there's things that maybe the family unit needs to fix first, because it's like when you go and try to fix something and they return to the negative environment again, it's just, clashing. So we do take a lot of that into consideration. It's easy to say there's not anyone that neurofeedback can't help, but I don't like to say that because, it depends what they're looking for. What is their goal? What is their process? What are they looking to improve? Do they have symptoms, or do they really just want peak performance brain health? Because we have people that just come for that. So we find out their goals, their standard way of living. Does this fit in properly? And if not, then we may just refer out to either counselors or psychologists, people like that.
So if I'm sitting there, right, and the TV's getting softer and softer, what do I have to do?
So this is a natural thing. So did you learn about Pavlov's dogs?
Yes. Yeah.
That's what we're doing. We're using operant conditioning. So usually we don't think that we could be in control of our brain activity. Now, when you get good enough and you're very in tune with the way you're feeling, the way your brain is functioning, there are people that can actually put themselves into different states of brain activity. So, for example, someone that's very good at meditation, they're putting themselves into a specific brain activity that some people can't do because they're stuck in this high processing brain activity. So there are people that are more in tune with their brain activity. Now, when you're sitting there and learning, you're not logically, consciously controlling it. This is a feedback directly to that brain activity, just like the saliva of the dogs in Pavlov's dogs. Okay, so it's operant conditioning. This is something that you just naturally get a feedback for. So they say that 85% feedback can help change a behavior, whether that's a logical, like conscious behavior or a behavior that we don't necessarily control most of the time. So you sit and watch, and that's hard for a lot of people. Think about the people with anxiety. They feel out of control. They feel like they need to control. And so a lot of times it's very hard for them. So the screen is actually dark a lot for those type of clients. And it takes them recognizing their emotional state, their physical state at that time. So when I do see someone kind of struggling or trying to control it, I just tell them, take a deep breath, breathe, watch the show. It's a show that they choose, that they enjoy. We try not to have people choose things that will stimulate like a high emotional state, right? So if it's a veteran that has PTSD, we're not going to have them watching Private Ryan. Okay. So they might watch something goofy or, a YouTube that they enjoy or something like that.
Interesting. And because that's kind of the way that my muse works. And I noticed that breath work does make a big difference in how things change. Have you seen the same thing with that? Now, I know you mentioned a little bit of breathing, but do you have more systematic breath work during a session to help people regulate?
Yes, so we do. Obviously, we could do box breathing, the 4, 4, 4, but we actually have on our neurofeedback equipment something called Heart Math. Have you heard of them?
I have. I have one of their monitors.
Awesome. So we have a monitor in office. This is something, it's heart rate variability when your brain and your heart in coherence. That is getting your mind, your body, your soul, all of that into connection. And there has been, research to show the efficacy of that when you are more in control of your breathing and your state of being, that does help your cognitive brain as well. So we use that in the office.
I know I get good results, but I don't know how to change them.
Right. Yeah. And that's where the cool part of neurofeedback, when you have an office to go to, because we do before and after scans as well, the brain map that we do. So we'll do 20 visits of neurofeedback based on that person's first assessment. Then we'll do a second assessment, see where all the change has happened, go from that assessment into a new protocol or new area to train. So it's very customized for each person.
So, how often do people have to come before they get results?
It is different for everyone, right? So a 5-year-old is going to react and respond a lot faster than an 80-year-old, especially if there's medication involved, a lot of trauma and history. There are a lot of kids on medications too right now that it does take them a little bit longer. Most people start to see changes between 12 to 18 sessions. That's on average. And those might be small changes. Like, for example, if it's a child who has meltdowns at homework time and the meltdown is for 2 hours, they start doing neurofeedback and all of a sudden their meltdowns are going down to 1 hour. That's a big change for that family unit. It doesn't sound like it, but that's saving a whole hour of a breakdown of a meltdown. And then you start to see that improve until finally they're not having meltdowns. They're able to get through their homework or schoolwork without having all of the emotional response. So everyone does react differently. And that's another reason we ask our clients, what are their goals? Let's be realistic. If you think that you're going to start sleeping for 8 hours after 30 years of sleeping for 3 hours, not going to happen in 18 visits. It's probably going to happen in 40, and it might only be 6 hours of sleep or 5 hours of sleep compared to the 3. So we are very upfront, realistic, and just completely open with our clients about what to expect. We can't promise anything.
This episode of Richer Soul is sponsored by the Profit Answer Man podcast. If you're a business owner who wants to scale and grow, increase profits, or want to have strategic conversations around your financials, then check out the podcast. You'll learn how to work less, increase cash flow, increase profits, and build reserves to help you weather storms. It's built on the Profit First methodology of pay yourself first. The Profit Answer Man podcast is a must listen to for every small business owner and anyone who wants to help them survive and thrive. Check it out on your favorite listening platform. Do you ever try to explore what the root cause is that's causing the issue?
Sometimes, so they do fill out a medical history, and sometimes they tell us without us even trying to dig. And because we're not, so some of my offices do have licensed counselors in them or run them. So we do have to be very careful how deep we go with people, because we do want to be trained and certified to be able to deal with anything that might come up. So they do share that information a lot of times on the medical history. And we highly recommend that the people with a lot of trauma, if that's where it comes from, that they are seeing a counselor or a psychologist while doing the neurofeedback.
Have you found much progress with the counselors and the therapists? Because I know it always seems like they go forever.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So the counselors that are open to partnering with us are very happy to not have their clients forever. That's a good counselor. So if I have a counselor refer to me, it's usually someone who says, I've learned about neurofeedback. I've heard of you. I've heard of your company, whatever it is. I have this client that has been with me for 5 years, and we take 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And it's like, just for 5 years, I am not being like, this is not ethical for me to continue. So we would like to add neurofeedback to it. And what usually happens is when you add the neurofeedback with the counseling, the client is now able to process all the amazing tools that the counselor is giving them, because the brain is processing better. So then they're not seeing them weekly. Maybe they see them once every 3 months or 6 months just for a check-in. That's proper, ethical counseling.
That makes sense. So what is the future like? Where is this going? Like, are there big things on the horizon?
Yes. I mean, for neurofeedback as a whole, the amount it's evolved since I even joined 13 years ago in this industry. I mean, the technology is getting better. I mean, more and more people are looking for ways to improve their brain health, especially those with parents that are aging and they're worried about their memory. They're finding it for their parents. They're finding it for themselves to be proactive, to strengthen their brains so the memory doesn't start to decline, because everyone just thinks, oh, I'm getting older, your memory goes. That's not an excuse for your memory to just go. You could be preventative, you could be proactive with your brain health, whether that's doing neurofeedback, eating healthy, taking good supplements that are good for your brain, like fish oil and things like that. So it is definitely growing. There's more and more professional athletes starting to use it. They just don't like to talk about it because they don't want their, the people against them to know about it, So, but I did just post today, right before this, I posted 5 professional golfers, and what they have in common is, and one of them is Tiger Woods, and they all used neurofeedback during their time of being pro golfers.
So what are they trying to accomplish with it?
A very calm focus. So when you're even when you're right there at the hole and you have to really stay calm and focus, you have everyone watching, all that, you can put yourself into that brain zone. It's like this alpha zone, and it's just like so calm. Or it's like when a basketball player is at a free throw line, it's just like getting into that zone where you're just locked in. So that's what they're looking for, peak performance. Some of them really do have attention and focus issues or cognitive issues. So they do it for that as well.
You mentioned a little bit about nutrition. How does that really fit into all of this?
Oh, I just did a report of finding for this young 25-year-old dad today, and he's a veteran. He's a new dad with 2 kids, 25 years old, super stressed brain. There is an area that shows up in delta patterns, which is your slow wave activity, and it's right above your ears. And when it shows up as high magnitudes of that slow wave activity above your ears, that is correlated to hyperglycemia. Now, we can't diagnose diabetes or anything like that, but what it's telling us is there's either food sensitivities, it's an unhealthy diet, or both. So I asked him, is there something you could improve about your nutrition and the way you eat? Like, this is telling me this is not a healthy, like there's inflammation. It's literally showing me there's inflammation in that area of the brain, which correlates to nutrition. He's like, oh yeah, I mean, I eat horrible and drinking every day and all this stuff, you know? And so I'm like, so here's the thing. I'm not a nutritionist. That was going to be my first undergrad. I switched it to exercise science because that's more fun. But I tell him, we've all been told like all these gimmicky diets and eat low fat, do this, do that. What we do know is move your body, eat healthy proteins. Fats are good for you. Low fat has extra sugar. So anywhere that you're seeing extra sugar in your diet, you're going to have inflammation in your brain and your body. You're going to have fogginess. You're going to have memory issues. You're going to have sleep issues. So if you really break it down to what's good for us, we know that it's good proteins, good healthy vegetables, and good fats. So I told him, don't try to stick to any specific diet or go so extreme. You know, if you're already eating unhealthy and you try to do 75 hard, you're going to disappoint yourself. Like, be realistic. I'm always about be realistic with your goals, expectations, and what, you know, not saying someone couldn't do it, but you got to be realistic and have a long-term plan for your health. So nutrition is one of those. I've been working on it. I've been doing a little more, if I'm going to choose a diet, more of the carnivore type diet, just healthy, you know, proteins and some small vegetable amounts. Try to get rid of the carbs.
And you said he was young. He was only 25.
Yeah.
So this matters at any age.
Oh,
The
absolutely.
food part.
I am seeing it with the kids the most. You know, everyone thinks their kid has ADHD, and you ask them, what did they eat for breakfast? What's the biggest answer is cereal, which is straight sugar. Sugar. Oatmeal is sugar, cereal sugar. Every person should be starting their day with protein. So my 6-year-old, and don't get me wrong, I am not perfect. I'm not a perfect mom. I'm not a perfect eater. I drink my wine and I like to eat my sweets sometimes, you know, but I am trying to teach my 2 daughters. I have a 6-year-old and a 14-year-old, and they are protein eaters. They love protein. This morning, Elia, my 6-year-old, ate sausage for breakfast. My 14-year-old ate eggs and avocado. So, you know, that's what they're used to. I don't buy cereal. If you don't have it in your house, they can't eat it. So don't buy it.
You know, it's amazing how kids learn to eat stuff, you know, because they don't have credit cards and they don't go shopping.
Right. And they're going to be hungry at some point. So if they don't want to eat what you gave them, then they're just going to get hungry and eventually they're going to eat what you give them. So that's what I've learned. And, you know, I want my children to also have healthy relationship with food. So I don't force them to finish their food or anything. I want them to feel full and that they have the energy they need to go throughout their day. So that's what it's for. It's to fuel our bodies. It's not that you have to just indulge in every meal that you have and eat everything on your plate.
No, that makes total sense. We seem to be in the world of AI. Is that coming into your place, and how is that affecting what's going on?
No, I haven't seen it in this industry. That's a really good question, though. So I'm going to probably look it up now. I use AI all the time. I love it. I am surprised by business owners that are so against it, because I'm like, it's just another tool, just like social media, just like your email. It's another tool. And why wouldn't you want to be more efficient? I mean, they're coming out. Here's where I would like to implement it in my business. is they're coming out with AI phone calling, services. And of course, it is a robot, but it's programmed to your company. It's amazing. And what we're doing, what we're going to implement it when it's ready, because the guy who's helping me build it for our company, he's training it all about neurofeedback, how to answer. So, like, he showed me an example of it, and it was like, you're on the phone and you're like, well, I don't even understand what this QEEG brain map thing is. Can you explain that to me? And the AI immediately can process it and explain it at a fifth grade level. That's very difficult for a human on the phone that maybe isn't quite trained enough, but you need someone answering the phones, and you could lose that client because maybe they're not confident in what they're saying, they're in a bad mood, they don't feel good, they didn't answer the phone, So I have employees that work with my clients. The AI is not going to replace that. That's personal. That is, we want people to feel like home here. But that initial phone call where it's educational, that's where I use it for my business.
And that makes a lot of sense. We love AI. We just did an episode on it. We'll continue to use it in all parts of our business. And I'm thinking more it would be able to read the data and provide feedback at some point as well.
Yeah,
and
it can.
help with that.
Yeah, I use it sometimes when, I want to do a post and really explain a certain brain activity at a level that's more fun or easy to understand. I mean, my ChatGPT, I pay for the monthly one, and it's trained to, it knows what I'm going to ask. It knows the style I like. It knows how I want to present it. So it has saved me so much time. And we know that, posting and being active in front of your audience is important to build your business. So that's what I use a lot of it for too.
Nice. Can you talk about some client transformations? What have you seen and how have people been able to be helped?
Yes, that I have so many. I mean, I've owned my business going on 12 years now, and 2 years before that with the doc. And so I've just seen amazing results from children with autism that were nonverbal start talking or counting, saying their alphabet, giving their parents hugs that they don't want to touch them before because they're so sensory affected. So those are some amazing ones. I've had college age students that had been on ADHD meds since second or third grade, and they were just sick of being on it. They felt unhealthy. They didn't feel like themselves. And one of the coolest stories is a psychiatrist that was actually prescribing the meds told her client to come see me, and we would work together to slowly get him off the meds. And this kid, he was 24. He had been on the meds since second or third grade. He got completely off the medications. At the time, he was living in his mom's basement, hating life, depressed, all of it. He ended up finding a girlfriend within all this time. It was probably about 6 months. All this time, he came off the meds, found a girlfriend, bought his own house, moved out, all this. I'm like, that's crazy, and that's not the average response. That was pretty extreme, but it was so amazing to be able to work with a medical doctor who's prescribing the meds that believes her client believes in the therapy and work together with me to help get him to where he wanted to be in his life. So that was awesome. And then we've had clients where they're in their 70s, 80s, and the symptoms look like dementia. And they were just kind of foggy, not, one word answers with their adult children. And then all of a sudden, getting into about 30, 40 visits, they're having full paragraph conversations with their children that they haven't had in years. So it's pretty amazing stuff.
What's usually the underlying issue with the adults that causes that?
To be honest, I in my heart, I truly believe that it's trauma that was never dealt with. It's nutrition. And it's loss of purpose, I think, for a lot of people, when they're downsizing from their homes that they've owned and going to assisted livings that don't keep them active. There's some really great ones out there. Actually, my office, I'm looking out the window and I'm directly across from assisted living and an active community. They are one of the best in our area because they keep them active. They keep business owners coming in and presenting to them and doing exercises. And it's like, they need a sense of community and purpose, just like all of us. So if they lose that in their older age, then decline happens. So
it does. Is there anything we should have talked about but didn't get a chance to?
That's a good question. I think we covered a lot. I just want people to understand like neurofeedback is definitely a growing industry, and that I feel that people need to take more consideration when it comes to their brain health. A lot is going around about mental health, and mental health, usually people just think counseling or medication. And I like to talk about it like neurofeedback is like fixing your hardware of a computer, and then counseling and coaching and gratitude and meditation is kind of like the new software that you download to that healthy hardware that's all upgraded and working great. So they go together. You work on your brain, you work on your mind, but they are different and they go together. So you got to work both.
What exactly does it do to kind of upgrade the hardware, so to speak?
So when you're doing the neurofeedback, you're working those neural connections. We're not working how you're thinking. We're not like working on tools to change your thoughts necessarily. It's really working the physical brain. It's like you get tired from it. You are working your actual physical brain and how it's processing.
So is it creating new connections then?
It is
Okay.
neuroplasticity. Absolutely. Hmm.
All
Yeah.
right. So it's using a variety of different ways. Anyone that it's not good for, like if, are there certain things that you notice you're like, we don't want to work with that?
Yes. And we have just recently, actually. Unfortunately, we might have a client who's schizophrenic and possibly using alcohol or drugs. If they're not, now I'm not saying it couldn't help someone with schizophrenia, but it's a little outside of our wheelhouse. Like if we were maybe psychiatrists or psychologists even, and we were able to work more with those specific diagnoses, I would feel more confident. I'm confident in our ability to administer neurofeedback. We're board certified, all of that. It's just some of those are a little bit outside of our scope. Addiction is something that we can and have worked very great with, like positive results. The thing is if the person doesn't see it as a problem or want the change, then there's no reason for them to come in. So we had an adult child that the mom was bringing him, and he would come do the neurofeedback and just go home and drink. And that we're not going to take her money to have him continue to do that. He most likely needs to go to rehab or some kind of facility where he's in house for at least, some time.
And that makes sense. You have to want the change. Otherwise it's not going to be helpful.
Yeah.
Well, good. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It's time to learn the secrets of life. What's your secret to living an abundant life?
Giving to others. Yeah. But with a heart that I don't expect anything back.
Hmm.
Yeah. There's a great book called The Go-Giver. Have you heard of it?
I have. I'm familiar with it.
Yeah. Bob Berg's awesome. So that's what I try to live my life by and share with others.
Great book. What did you learn later in life that you wish you would have learned sooner?
The importance specifically about money. I'm learning a lot of money, money tips. The importance of, making sure I'm still learning. Like, I don't know the exact amount that I'm supposed to have saved, but having an emergency fund is really smart. And even though money's easy to make, to have more respect for it. Like, I'm learning to respect money more. And so I just don't, I'm working on not spending it as soon as I get it.
It's funny. Generating revenue is one skill, and most people can do that. Keeping money is another skill, and very few people can do that one.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the hard one for me. And I love, like, I'm like, well, more money will come and I'm making the money now, so I might as well enjoy it. And I'm like, wait, I have kids that I probably need to make sure that they're set up, because I didn't have that from my parents. So yeah, I'm learning that.
If you were to give an 18-year-old one specific piece of wisdom, what would it be?
Oh, can I give two? One is about money and one is just general about life. I think about money is, I wish it weren't true, but credit does matter. And I was not taught that at all. And so the people with good credit, it doesn't mean you have to use it all the time or, depend on it, but having a good credit matters. And then having that cash flow is very important too. And then the other thing is that you don't necessarily have to go to college to be successful. That was something that I feel like my parents' generation all beat into us is like, you have to go to college. But college right now is putting a lot of people in debt. And then they end up not even doing what they went to college for, which is like, dang, that sucks because you just spent you owe a lot of money now, or your parents do, however that ended up. So I think it's finding your purpose and your passion. And if that means that, it doesn't involve college, that's okay. Like, go for it. And I do believe that if you go into life with the purpose and passion that you want to share with others, that money will come easy.
And I think that's a big shift that's kind of going on culturally right now because college has become, it's not that it's unaffordable, but there's no return on the investment for a lot of
Right. For many years.
situations. Yeah. And it depends on what you're going for. So I think people are challenging that quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
If people would like to learn more about neurofeedback and your centers, how do they do that?
Yes, my website is BrainTrainCentersInc.com. We just got a new website, so it looks real nice, and you can find all the locations. I ended up licensing my business, so you'll see locations that aren't owned by me, but by colleagues that have come into my company. And so they're all trained and certified and are happy to help too.
Awesome. We'll put that in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
With all the distractions in life, our brain never gets a chance to be quiet. And if you don't make it a priority after a while, it probably forgets how. I even struggle with this. So, this may be an option for you to help retrain your hardware. Did you notice how she talked about money as a business owner? This is normal. And it's why I have the other podcast, Profit Answer Man, where we teach business owners how to handle their money inside their business. By the way, who do you know that might need to hear this episode? Would you share it with them? I'd appreciate it. Thank you so much for listening. Next week, we've got Stephanie Kwong on to continue this conversation with rapid internal rewiring. Thanks for listening. Have an abundant week.